No. Hello to all you patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 426 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one live podcast in Canada. We're recording May 13th, 2024. I guess it's not my name on there, so I'll continue reading. We need your help to support the show. Visit patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon. You can get a better quality version of the show, which is impossible because we are the best quality all the time, but apparently it has something to do with the audio recording or something, which makes it better. But you could do that for just $1 an episode. You could also show that you're not a communist by buying a CPP t-shirt for just $24.99 plus shipping and mandatory government theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com, our homepage, and follow the link on the right. And now our favorite segment. What are we drinking, and something that you've done off of the Patriot Challenge? Eric?
What would it be? Well, tonight I am drinking a treasure that I found in my freezer from a friend of mine, some homemade limoncello.
Ooh.
So for those of you who are Italian descent, it is a very spicy and warm lemon-based alcohol kind of knock you in the teeth drink with some Signal Hill and water. Actually, I'm sorry, not Signal Hill. I'm Buffalo Trace.
So, excellent choice. Yeah. Excellent choice.
Buffalo Trace water and Patriot Challenge. Well, I was thinking and was being kind of shamed by some of the panelists who are not here tonight. So late Thursday, I signed up for Risoul and completed 10 kilometers plus per day with 10 kilograms over the last 4 days. So I would consider that being part of the Patriot Challenge.
Absolutely. Congratulations on your achievement.
10 point average about 10.3 per day. So, and the worst one was the Friday, which was the night of the Northern Lights. It was on the comments. I started at 6:30 in the morning. Hey, Pierre.
Hey.
Started at 6:30 in the morning, and I went to visit my mother for Mother's Day in Hamilton. I got home at 10:30, quarter to 11. I said I still got the challenge to do, and went out and finished about 12:30, and then did it the next Saturday afternoon because I decided I would, and it's amazing what we will do for Bling. So
it's true.
That's well what done. We did. Yeah. So for the Patriot Challenge. So.
That and
Pierre,
are you
welcome?
Hold on, just one thing quickly before we throw it over to Pierre.
Sure.
Don't worry, Pierre, we'll get to you. Okay. Buffalo Trace. Are you a Scotch man?
Not so much. That's a bourbon. Buffalo Trace is Kentucky bourbon.
Yes.
I've had some scotches. I'm not fond.
You haven't had the right Scotch.
Well, no, I don't think the right Scotch exists either. But the interesting thing that goes from one to the other. So for bourbons, they're only allowed to use fresh oak barrels. They cannot reuse the barrels. So Buffalo Trace sells their barrels to Glenfiddich, and Glenfiddich uses them for Scotch barrels.
Go.
So that's my little tidbit of time.
But it also tastes like peat moss when you drink Glenfiddich. So it's gross.
Yes.
Here's another tidbit about Scotch whiskey. I have had Scotch whiskey, and I like to make things. Scotch whiskey seems to make the best Irish cream.
Interesting.
I've tried Irish whiskey to make Irish cream, and
not so much.
I've used it's not so much. I used the I've got it downstairs. I don't know what it was. I've used Scotch whiskey to make Irish cream, and it worked out great. So,
well, there you go. Sorry to interrupt, Pierre.
What are you drinking? Pierre, what are you drinking?
As per usual, 40 Creek and Patriot Challenge. I was an operator for a day with the machine. And then just recently, tonight, I was a trainer and got Mel into a machine that she's never had and said, all right, drive back and forth to try and pack.
Can we talk about that on the air? If you got Mel into a machine that she's never had before, I don't know. Is that appropriate?
Yeah, for just $3, you can get the video.
Perfect.
You
yeah,
saw in the
so,
private chat or the feed picture, so we're good.
yeah, yeah.
They were hot.
Yeah, just doing a lot of prep work, getting some landscaping done in the backyard. Well, more so destroying right now. Getting the shed dropped off tomorrow morning. So yeah, we just fucked all the grass up, dug up the fire pit where we wanted, do all the stuff, and then obviously grass is the last thing you want to do when you're revamping your backyard. So our grass is all fucked up in the back. But yeah, got to play operator and put 20 tons of gravel in the backyard. So that was fun.
Nice.
That's about it. That took most of everything. Dig up the hole, fill the hole, pack the hole.
Nice.
Yeah. That's about it. What about you, Gavin?
I am drinking some Crown Royal and Diet Pepsi this evening. Patriot Challenge, I also participated in Rezul. Not quite as actively as Eric, but I did get my minimum 10K in. My weekend was kind of busy all over the place. So I wasn't just slacking. Saturday, I had a disaster preparedness fair that I was attending in Toronto with my search and rescue group. And then Sunday for Mother's Day, they had the Streetsville breast cancer walkathon that I was also assisting at. So I was busy doing all of the things, but still managed to at least get 2 5Ks in to get my absolute minimum of walking to still, get my little pin.
Nice.
So, but yeah. So, did a little bit, but that's the way it goes sometimes. But one of these days I will do the 40K a day for 4 days.
Oof.
1 year.
Yeah, like that's gonna take.
I was thinking of that, but 40 Ks over 4 days was plenty. Well, after the Brest too, it was like
not that long ago. Yeah.
Yeah. No thanks.
Yeah.
25 in 1 day was 5 hours. I'm doing the math. I'm thinking of so that's
it's
8
like
hours
a
a day.
It's
That's
a whole day
lot.
of walking. Like
yeah,
and
then wake up and do the exact same, and then
again and again
and again.
yeah.
So
it was hard enough when we did the 25 a day for 4 days, but 40 a day for 4 days would be absolutely ridiculous. But
yeah, I mean,
I know if I work at it, I can do it.
Yeah, 100%. No,
and I want to try. But this year was not in the cards. Hopefully next year I will start working towards it and be able to do that. I'd like to be able to at least do 40K in 1 day just to see how I feel at the end of that. Even just walking it with no weight, just to see what it feels like to walk 40K in 1 day and then go from there. But
that's the thing though, right? It's the 25 is well, and we had the second day I was talking with Andrew, and we were talking about how that all worked, and because let's just say I have a little more life experience than the two of you that were on the march with me
combined.
Yes, probably, but being physical and hiking tools and lumber and up and down stairs all day versus a less physical job. The training, I still needed to do it, but I noticed myself getting better even over the 4 days. So it's a commitment thing that anyway.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it is harder. Like having a physical job certainly helps with that. And I mean, I see it with friends of mine that work in some sort of a trade where like they can eat whatever they want and drink all of the beer and they never get fat.
Yes, because
fucking you can't do that when you get to my age, though. That's the thing.
Well, but they're able to hold off and be able to do that a lot longer than I was able to do that. Where it was like, because having a desk job is not good. And I mean, I do try to like walk around the office and do all those things, but like, a lot of the time you are kind of tied to your desk, and I'm not getting one of those standing desks, because that just is ridiculous.
And the treadmill.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Not yet.
Yeah, no. Or the little like the pedals that you put under your desk so you can ride a bike while you're sitting at your desk. Yeah, I'm not doing that. That is ridiculous.
Well, the other thing is, compared to most people who are in an office, I know that, and Pierre, it sounds from what I've been able to infer from what you do, you are on the road quite a bit, but are quite hands-on and physical. But with
Yes.
Gavin and certain unnamed panelists who refuse to show up anymore because I get so intimidated by my greatness, they sit behind a desk but they which is their job, but they go outside of that to actually exercise and do things to get better. So
Yeah.
you know, that's the important thing, I think. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you got to do it, but yeah, it just makes it a little bit harder to because it's one more thing to add to your busy day, right? It's like I've got to go
Yeah.
do all the work things and then I have to exercise, where it would be nice if my job was a little bit more physical so that while I was doing one thing, I was doing the other thing at the same time. That's
Yeah,
not
so, like-
a treadmill desk because that's just stupid.
Yeah, but you know, like doing the 8-10 hour work days, and then
Yeah.
putting 2-3 hours into a good routine is obviously nice, but complicated to do compared to having a job that you
Yeah.
work 10 hours and, you know, 7 of those are very physical.
Yeah.
There's a giant perk to it, but I mean, there's also a giant wear and tear on the body.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You get home from
Like,
work and you're
there's
absolutely
upside.
bagged.
Yeah, you're bagged. I mean, you know, over time you get carpal tunnel, back, bad knees, bad back. You know, depending on what you do. Like, you know, there's obvious trade-offs for both. Like, one of them you have a hard time staying in shape. The other one you're in great shape, but then your body decays. Where when you're 60, you can't fucking do anything for yourself. So I'm like,
Hey,
it's trying to find
easy on the when you're 60 stuff, dude. All right.
Yeah. Because that stuff starts
I
happening
did
in your
Paris
40s.
Saloika, so one of the other
Yeah.
panelists here didn't. So
Yeah, I'll admit it. But I was being an operator where I got in a machine and didn't do anything and didn't get out. Right, I was just following the thing. Yeah, I didn't participate. I should have. I was trying to, but I haven't had a day off in over a week now. So I finished my one job and worked part time on the other 3 days, even though I only get 2 days off from the other job, and then prep in the backyard. I did the cheap way, and I got a machine.
Even doing that, it sounds
all
like
that, all
you're doing
that,
physical stuff. So.
all that male privilege there, Pierre.
Yeah, all that male
Gavin,
privilege to have a house, you know, like I had to work. I'm on day 9 of my or 10 of my work week. But I mean, I had some relaxed time and everything, but would have been nice to do it, but it just wasn't in the cards. I didn't
That's all
plan
right.
ahead.
I would much
for it.
rather have been playing with heavy equipment than going for a walk. But
fuck yeah.
Well, there you
Nothing
go.
beats heavy equipment. Nothing to make the fucking blood flow. Like,
yeah, but when you have your own place, I mean, Gavin, you've been to my place. I mean, there's nothing better I like than building bonfires with a front end loader and firing up the wood chipper and working my ass off all day long. That's
using,
to me, that's not
using
work, right?
chainsaws with no PPE. Yeah, that's how you just.
That's not work. That's fun.
That's
10 of each still, so we're good.
Yeah, that and some safety sprints, you're good to go.
You're on the threshold of being part of the fucking war amps, fucking amputee program, and everybody. Yeah,
no,
nothing terrifies me more than fucking people working chainsaws without chaps. Fucking terrifying.
Really?
Yeah, like my fucking pet peeve. People with chainsaws, no chaps. Is like, I'm the fuck out of here. Terrifies me.
Oh wow!
Don't care how long you've worked with it.
Yeah,
I'm usually in shorts.
Yeah, I have definitely used
like
chainsaw line, but wearing shorts and may or may not have had shoes on. Like
no,
by
always
far,
boots, but yeah,
no, my like I don't care how long you've been around it. I'm like, it's so like obviously going on the waste spectrum and like how crazy this can go sideways so fast is just one of those things where I'm just like, there are
I have also used a grinder with no shirt on, and that was not fun.
Yeah, almost as bad as
just make sure that it's rotating the correct direction if you're going to do it with no shirt on. That's
same with cooking bacon.
That's why you do this.
Yeah, a safety spins.
Buddy, I've done that.
It's like welders when they just close their eyes. It's fine.
Yeah,
I don't need to see for this.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Anyways, on to the news.
Safety first.
Yeah. So apparently, I don't know if you guys knew this, but one way to decrease the number of temporary residents is that we just make them permanent residents.
So they're not wrong, but I don't agree.
Yeah,
Like they're 100% accurate,
yeah.
but I have many issues.
Yes, this is the most ridiculous solution to this problem ever. Well, if we just make them permanent residents, then they won't be temporary residents more, and we will reduce the number of. Yes, but the total number of residents does not decrease.
No.
So
Right. So like I I haven't read this article. I was a horrible
well, that's really
panelist.
that's about all there is to it. Immigration
Well-
Minister Mark Miller here wants to reduce the number of temporary residents from 6.2% of Canada's population to 5%. Which
Okay.
this will absolutely do that, and will do it easily when you grow the permanent population
Yes.
by the number that you're decreasing the temporary one by. It will have like a pretty quick rapid change of
Yeah,
percentages
yeah.
though.
So are we just like
That's how
saying, hey,
numbers
you're permanent,
Yeah.
or are we downgrading the timeline from temporary to permanent? Like instead of it being 2 years, we're bumping it down to 1 year. Like I said, I was a horrible panelist. I
No, so-
literally just finished supper and people
Well,
left the house.
here's one thing that
That's
I
why I was
read.
late.
Here's one thing that stood out to me. I'm trying to find where it is in the article, but the thing that stuck out to me was he mentioned the fact that there is a worker shortage. So we need to make these temporary residents permanent residents. So I'm self-employed, work in the construction industry, and I can tell you for a fact, there is not a worker shortage. There is a shortage of workers who want to work.
Yeah.
And those are two different things. Because of
Absolutely.
what happened with the last 4 or 5 years with the people that we have, with the way that our benevolent leaders have decided to just give money to people for the fact they don't have to work, the work ethic has gone out the window. And so
the
they
fact that
expect something for nothing.
Yeah.
And so
and the fact that we've raised children to not have failures and not work hard to get everything and just get participation badges for everything. And I've been here for 3 weeks. What do you mean I don't make 100K yet? And it's like, no, you need to put the work in to be able to get to the point where you're
Yeah.
capable of making $100,000, right? Like
so
we've got such a society and such a workforce that needs instant gratification that if they don't get it, they quit and they go to the next job. And then
and in my opinion, it's the
this.
problem of the people that are listening to are listening to them, as it were. I mean, I'll give you a quick example.
They
if I
or
may.
them?
I what's that?
They or them or they've slashed them. Like just want to make sure. Let's be inclusive.
I've got we have 4 kids, my wife and I, and my oldest, my daughter is 31. Don't hold this against her. She's a school teacher and hates everything about it. So she is.
so she's perfect for the job.
Yes. And then 3 boys. I coached all 3 boys playing baseball. My philosophy playing ball through all the years, and I told the parents, was it's not how you play the game, it's whether you win or lose that counts.
Absolutely.
And I had a lot of arguments. But it's like not everyone is a winner. I'm sorry. If your kid sucks, he's not gonna play.
Well, I mean,
and that's the mentality that they don't want to hear, right?
Yeah, but the job market is a competitive market.
Yeah.
Right? That's how
that's
how capitalism works and how commerce and all of those things work.
That's how everything should work.
And you need to compete or do something in life and fail at it miserably so that you learn how to deal with that. If you've never failed at something and failed so utterly spectacularly that it affects you, you are not a full, well-rounded person in your learning, like your life experience, right? Because eventually something will happen, and the longer you go through life with nothing like that happening, the more it will affect you when it does.
Yeah.
And this is the problem with the kids these days. and like you give them participation things for everything. And I'm not saying that we can't do that for like little kids that are learning and this and that, but like at some
Yeah.
point,
But there
you know,
there should be
earlier
an
on in
age.
life, there needs to be the understanding that it is okay to compete in some things and not win in them and be gracious in losing and like
Yeah.
celebrate the person that did win
Or
in an appropriate
incentivize
manner
them to
and
want to work
and learn
harder
from
and be
yeah
better.
and learn from your failures and how to go on and go forward
Yeah.
with it. But
One
I
of
mean,
my philosophies with my kids was, you guys are special to us, but really you're not
Yeah.
that special.
yeah, even to us.
You know,
Yeah.
as
There's
far as
more
my,
of you,
as
yeah.
far as mom and dad are concerned, you're the greatest people on the world on the earth.
Yeah.
When you get out in the real world,
Yeah.
nah, they don't really
Yeah,
care.
you want to be that person. You
You
work
are no
to be that
different than
person.
anyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And if you
so-
want to be different, you got to put the work in and you got to prove yourself to be that. Don't just
Yeah.
expect it.
Yeah.
So
So as
we've been
I'm
lucky
not a,
that way that our kids have all kind of taken that mantle and understand that. So I'm lucky. I mean, my wife and I both have had great examples with our parents, and that's one of the things that I think is missing is you know, the family parental model of going. I mean, it's weird. Anyway, I could go off on a whole rant, but I
Yeah.
won't.
Yeah. But so
I've passed
the,
like 6 rants I want to go on, so it's all
yeah,
good.
so Minister Miller here is saying that the fact that the people are already here, their impact on affordability has already been baked in. So it's smart to do this. But it doesn't mean by extension that everyone entitled to stay here or be here in Canada. But it doesn't mean that everyone's entitled to stay.
Well, and the way they're talking in the article, they're talking about the fact that the population has gone. So the population growth has
Yeah,
gone
so
to
they're
a point where, well,
trying
you
to
guys,
rein that
you are the ones
in.
who invited them in.
Well, but that's the
Like-
thing. They're trying to rein it in. And so to rein in our rapid population growth, they are going to take the people that are temporary, which means that because it's temporary, that at some point their residency here will expire and they will be made to leave. We are going to make them permanent residents, thereby permanently increasing the population, not temporarily increasing it, and then
Yeah.
reducing it by asking them to depart upon whatever their visa is.
So
Like,
I'm
this isn't
just
the right
curious.
solution.
Wow.
No, so what do temporary visa peoples allowed here, paperwork people? How does this affect my taxes and how much it costs me when I pay taxes compared to them becoming permanent?
So it depends on what it is. So if you are a temporary worker here on a visa,
Mm-hmm.
you are paying taxes. Even if you are a landed immigrant but not a citizen, you are paying into the system. But technically, if you are not a citizen, you are not supposed to be receiving things. And especially if you are like a worker here on a visa, you are supposed to be paying for all of your healthcare stuff and all of that stuff. So in
Big
theory,
issue I have with everything you said was supposed to.
well, so if everything is working properly,
Yeah.
then they are only paying in to the system and are not receiving any of the benefits from it. The problem is when you start putting in like
I need to
refugees
duck
and
out for 1
asylums,
second. I'll be right
Yep.
back.
but you get like the other groups of people that are being brought into the country. So the asylum seekers and the refugees and all
Yeah,
this,
so-
that, and everything else that are being invited here and are here legally because we've brought them in.
Yeah.
But aren't like
Not contributing and raping all the
Students.
benefits.
or workers that are here and are like giving schools money and paying rent and buying food and doing all of that stuff. They are receiving things without necessarily contributing. And not all of them, some of them may have jobs and things like that in which they are paying in, but
Yeah.
there's a difference between like temporary immigrants that are here on a work visa that like yes are contributing to things like the housing market problem where like there's no available housing because these people need to live somewhere.
Yeah.
But at least these temporary workers are contributing in that they're paying rent, they're buying food, groceries, and all of the things like that, and are
So
generally not
we should have more temporary people
well
because it costs
temporary in
less.
terms of like people here on work visas and things like that, as opposed to people
just-
that we're just bringing in that are going to be and not to speak ill of the people, but they are a drain on the resources because they are not contributing.
Yeah.
And
So I
so,
mean, like
yes,
I would be less opposed to people that come here for 6 months and they pay into the system,
yeah,
and it's like not necessarily like go to the hospital, get a full checkup, and like we're gonna cure everything. But it's
yeah.
like if you get injured here or um, you were here for a little bit,
Well, yeah, it's
illnesses from your past life, like or not your past life, but where you were, and like, okay, let's do what we can because at least
Yeah.
you're traveling here, you're trying to make money to go back home. I'm not entirely opposed to that, but the drain on society and just like
yeah.
let's check them
Chris,
off and they work the bare minimum and then get all the contributions that we have all worked fucking hard to do is
yeah.
an issue I have.
Well, yeah, you need to in order to really reap the benefits of that, you need to become a citizen. And not that people aren't going that route, but
Yeah.
Chris does make a good point here saying that like the temporary people that come and are working, while they do contribute by spending here, they do generally spend the bare minimum, and
Yeah.
whatever other money they made usually gets sent back home
But they
and
spend the
leaves the
bare
country.
minimum. But they
Yes.
spend the bare minimum for them to survive and not be a parasite on society.
Yes, but they are still taking like economic power away
Yeah.
by taking that money they've
but-
earned and sending it to another country. But at least
but
they
we
have,
wouldn't have that problem if we
if we didn't
decided
let them in to begin with.
Yeah,
But
well,
yeah,
not if we didn't let them in, but most times, like the only reason we have people that come here on work temporary
Yeah.
visas for I mean, we're getting to the season. My daughter has a friend, and they own a small farm, and
yes, there's a
40
lot of
acres, and
migrant
they're
labor work that
yeah,
come in.
and it's a thing, and it's fairly new to them. They've been working hard for years to try and make a profit, and they're slowly
Yeah.
getting there. And they have a worker, and they're just like, yeah, like we've got someone out of country coming here for fucking 4 or 5 months. Never met the person. Not
Yeah.
sure if we can even communicate with them. But they're like, we can't find anybody else. Like
Yeah.
we've tried to do everything for ourselves, right? As
Well,
much as
yeah,
possible.
and that goes back to I think that like the people that don't want to work, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like,
We
that's
don't
what I
we
was
don't
saying.
have
I
the
was like,
people that want to work, so we're forced to bring in outside
Yeah.
workers, and
or
then
so
throw in all the other immigration policies for
do
and
you
not that we
have
shouldn't help people, but we're doing it in a way
But
that
it's-
we can't sustain it.
It's
so
not
do you
even-
have to pay minimum wage to temporary workers?
Yes,
Do the same laws apply?
yes,
Yes. Okay.
But you don't-
Because I was like, if not, I was like, well, there's a fucking giant loophole. But
There
okay,
are
at least we're not
programs.
complete douchebags.
There are programs where the government will incentivize ownership
100%.
or owners
Yeah.
to hire
Yeah.
visible
Temporary.
minorities. Or
Yeah.
I'm not sure
Temporary.
specifically. So why would you hire somebody that the government says you should hire? We will give you money versus me paying you full wage.
Yeah.
Right. So if the government's going to pay half the wage, you as a small business, anything, you are more incentivized to say, well, I now only need to pay someone $8 an hour instead of 16
Yeah.
because the government kickbacks. And I'm like, I'm already paying taxes or whatever. So I'm like, we've already incentivized and made a program where that is whatever, but also we should not raise parasites
Yeah.
in society and make,
Yeah.
offsprings that are contributing members of society.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's one problem begets the other problem, which then makes everything worse, and
Yeah.
we just keep sinking
All of
lower
it
and lower
started
and
by
lower.
government.
Yes. So the only
It
solution
got me harder, Daddy.
is more government. Speaking of governments, though, the
Do we have to?
UCP yeah, this is a kind of a good
That's
one, though.
this is kind of our thing on Monday nights.
I know.
But yes, the UCP board, so the United Conservative Party board, is urging Premier Danielle Smith of Alberta to make COVID vaccine policy changes for children. So a Calgary riding is hosting an event with high-profile vaccine skeptics. and they are urging the premier to reform the COVID vaccine policy because they're worried about the safety of mRNA vaccines for kids. Seems
Okay, so
Yeah.
is
perfectly
this
reasonable to me.
is this for or against? I still haven't figured that out.
They are trying to get to change it so that children are not required to get COVID vaccines, specifically
well,
the mRNA
support.
ones.
I heard it. I heard everything I need to. I'm 100% in support.
On
So
that,
I
on
have
that note,
issues about everything because my kid, my responsibility. I pay taxes. My financial burden on the system is I pay taxes. Fuck off. I've been paying taxes for a very long time. I have giant issues with people telling me what I can and cannot do and what I have to do for my child to participate in a program that is already funded by the money I have contributed to.
well, along that note, this week in the news, AstraZeneca has withdrawn
Worldwide,
worldwide their vaccine
Not just in
because
Canada.
of blood clotting issues.
yeah,
Pfizer is settling fast cancer cases out of court, and the CNN anchors who are chastising those of us who know better for not taking the vaccine and have admitted to taking ivermectin, are out there. So it's like,
Yeah.
wake up,
So
you
we're
morons!
in a we're in a giant thing. So that's
Somebody's
nice to
getting
hear
paid. Somebody's getting paid.
I definitely am not. I saw how much I paid in
Somebody,
fucking
it won't be
taxes
us,
last
yeah.
year. Yeah. But it's nice to see that someone doing something that's way more probably able to speak in the people's and on probably some news thing and organize that just like, hey, we want to have a conversation about this, and they're pushing their thing, and where it's just like, I'm gonna bring you facts that I believe are true. You bring your facts, and let's make sure they're fact checked and not by Facebook fact checkers, but like let's find actual documentation. Medical, everything, the whole kit and caboodle. Where let's have a conversation and think about, children. Children are the future. If we don't have a future, society collapse.
Yeah, I mean, so in one of the interesting things here is they're saying that they want the AHS, so I'm assuming that's the Alberta Health thing, to disclose the science behind the vaccine and the potential repercussions, which is something that they should always have done
100%.
from the get-go.
Yeah.
So, yes, they are concerned about it, and they actually have the United Conservative of Alberta put out a big flyer and leaflet thing that they've got, and then the Calgary Lougheed presents What Matters to You, an Injection of Truth. So Monday, June 17th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. And if you go to www.aninjectionoftruth.ca, if you happen to be in that area, it will tell you all about the town hall. So it is interesting the way that this is kind of changing, and like,
so why is Alberta the only place that, like, if you're talking to like a person that isn't a liberal and you start talking about Alberta and what they got going, like you can tell from a mile away if they get a hard on that they're like people you'll probably want to talk to. Why is that
People
the only
don't want to
province?
admit they've made a mistake, Pierre. I have friends like that. They thought in the height of COVID, one of my dearest friends, even now, we will agree to disagree. His daughter said to me, son, his daughter asked me, are you getting your booster? I said, well, I haven't taken the first one. And my friend said, yeah, he's one of the stupid ones. I let it go. And now he's at a point where his son has now gone to sick kids for heart issues, irregular heartbeats, and fainting, vertigo, and dizziness. Then they're fully vaccinated. It's like, I'm not saying a word. It's like, dude, one of these
you'd
days,
be insensitive if you said, "Who's the smart one now?" or "Who's the stupid one now?"
Yeah.
You'd be
so
saying
the president of the section of pediatrics for the Alberta Medical Association finds the claims saddening, fringe views informed by hearsay and innuendo. So Sam Wong, who is the president here, has said that he has not read anything in official pediatrics or medical literature that supports views that mRNA vaccines are untested or dangerous for children. So, okay, but
Yeah.
also, why do we have to have them be mandatory? People should, I'm not saying that we need to stop those for those that want them.
I'm just saying that should be my choice, and
they
the
should
choice of
have,
my
yes,
children.
the choice of it, and the health system, which includes the doctors, should give you all of the information so that people can make an informed decision whether this is or is not something that they would like to do. And then, good or bad, whichever choice they make, they have to live with those consequences. But at least they have been given the choice and all of the information to the best of our ability at the time.
It boils down to follow the money. That's the problem.
Well, and yes, that's
not
always
not even. I mean, we could even go that far, but I'm saying way prior to that. So this person is saying that they have. Well, I haven't read anything official in any medical literature, which yes could be related back to follow the money or whatever. But like everybody, like let's even say that this was bad. How
well, I mean, we know that there were gag orders and everything where they weren't allowed to talk about things, and
right, weren't allowed to talk to side effects. Weren't allowed to talk about things that you could do without government intervention and taking this vaccine. Whether you just change some health habits, maybe not drinking on Mondays, but that won't happen for most of us. But doing small portions to, just get better in general. Eating more healthier foods, exercising more, and all that would probably have a huge, giant effect on how you could fight, the big scary COVIDs that took everybody's life for 3 years. So the problem I have with this giant article is that this person is just like, well, this is all bullshit because I haven't read anything official about this.
Yeah.
But the problem I have with that is nobody's allowed to
talk bad about it. Yeah.
To talk bad about it. So it's like, standing by. Well, I haven't seen a medical journal talk bad about this, even though there's thousands of documentations and many people you can talk to.
Everything else, but yes, this Wong fellow is saying here that he can't see any drawbacks to the use of the mRNA vaccination in children or adults. Not a single one.
Well, again,
because he doesn't see fucking patients anymore. He just sits there and reads all these documents coming, right? So he hasn't seen the side effects. Like, I'm sure if you could actually get your family doctor or a doctor that you see often.
Here, let me correct you.
Yeah.
He has seen the side effects and has chosen to look at his bank account to ignore those side effects so that the bank account keeps going.
Yeah. So you talk to most doctors, and if you got them in the room where information will never get out, they would probably tell you that, hey, we have seen some side effects, but they get told that they need to keep pushing it. And unfortunately, we don't have enough. Yeah.
Well, so we have some stats here. So the Public Health Agency of Canada has tracked adverse events reported following COVID vaccinations, including pain, headaches, and more severe reactions. As of this January, so 2024, it reported them at a rate of 40 incidents per 100,000 doses for Canadian children 4 and under, with lower rates for children aged 5 to 17 and rates slightly higher for most older age groups. So younger children are having a higher rate of a adverse reaction. And they are saying here, after more than 100 million COVID vaccinations administered, there have been 488 reports of death following vaccination in Canada. So official assess 4 of those to be consistent with casual association with immunization. The rest are unlikely to be linked to the vaccine, indeterminate or not classifiable according to the Public Health Agency. Just so that Google knows as I've read the whole thing so that they don't kick us off the YouTubes.
Yeah.
Right? So you're reading actual articles here and commenting on them, not making up.
This is from the Canadian Broadcasting Castration.
Yes.
Yeah, and by someone that you fact checked and
Yeah,
know is good.
straight from the
So,
CBC.
so what's the
But despite
report
all of that, he can't see any drawbacks whatsoever.
No,
Not
no.
even 40 out of 100,000 drawbacks. Zero.
So what's the adverse
Nada.
event? So
Oy.
so the reactions, like, I mean, I I I'm just curious how they would term the adverse effect. Is it considered long term, short term? Your kid got
Yeah.
vaccinated and they had a headache for a month. Is that
Well,
part
they're
of the
saying
40?
that like
Where
there
it's,
is a
you know,
4% chance that if you got a vaccine, an mRNA vaccine specifically, I'm
Yeah.
guessing, or no, maybe not. This would probably be all because they just measured any COVID vaccine. So a 4% chance that you will have an adverse reaction that will include pain, headache, and more severe reactions. Whatever more severe reactions is, they don't
Yeah.
split it up as to say
Or-
like 5
Up
of the
to and
40 would be
including
this
death.
or that or whatever. But yes,
right, and they don't even talk about like you got pain or a headache for a week, and
or is it
now
like
at least
not
as it
never
stands,
ending and it stays
yeah,
like
right.
yeah?
So I would like clarification on a bunch of those things. Like, did you get pain
But
where
there
like
is
your
a
arm was sore for a week
four
compared to
four
like a
percent
day?
chance that something bad will happen to you if you got one.
I
If I
have a
may,
feeling my chances are better if I got the COVIDs.
if I may,
Yeah,
I was on a new. I was up with the new crew the other day, and I was talking to a young
Condolences about
fellow.
meeting new people.
Yeah, Pierre, it's okay. It really
No,
is.
it's horrible.
But we got talking about this particular subject, and he said, "Did you actually get a shot?" I said, "No." He said, "I envy you. I wish I had not." So I'm in the construction industry. He said, "I got two." He said, "After the second one, I had such severe vertigo. I couldn't go on a man lift. I couldn't go on a ladder. I was off work for 7 months. And even now, I'm scaffolding and throws me for a loop. And it happened
Yeah.
the day I got that shot. I've been to
Yep.
my doctor, and they will not acknowledge it."
yeah.
He says,
And
"I
this
know
is
what
the
it
thing that
was, and I envy you." So,
this is the thing I'm finding, and this is totally anecdotal. I don't have any
and that's
written
mine as
thing on
well.
this, but I have not met a single person that did not get it and regrets not getting it. I have met people that have got it and regret getting it.
Yes.
Funny,
I
eh?
have met
Do
way
with
more.
that information what you will,
Yes.
right?
So I can honestly say I think I am one of the only people from, I will say, direct family, well, guaranteed direct family and secondary family, like cousins, uncles, everything. I'm pretty sure I'm one of, like, I will say three is a giant thing. And I mean, we're 22 grandchildren just on one side of the family.
Wow.
So like quite a bit. Yeah, like I would have loved to go down for my grandmother's I think it was her 90th birthday. But then we had the fucking, you know, Nazi family where they were like, "Oh, you know, no kids," because kids weren't allowed to have vaccinations in this province when that party went. And if you're not vaxxed, you are not welcomed at this party. Did
Yeah.
not matter that you wanted to be there to celebrate your grandmother's thing. And I'm just like, you know, fine. I'll go with what everybody's saying. I'll wear a mask. I'll wash my hands and all this stuff. And it's like, nope, that's not allowed. And now I won't say this out. Well, I'll say it out loud, but I haven't met the person in face yet to have that conversation. But yeah, all the vaxxed people got my grandmother sick.
Funny, eh?
Thankfully, everything's good. She's still kicking. She's still fucking running around like a little hoodlum at her age. But it's just, you know, and it's like you try and have a conversation where I'm just like, I'm not saying you were wrong. I just want to say, like, this is my point of view, and I want to understand your point of view of why you decided the vax was the best option.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Like, bring me your opinions. Bring me, not because the doctor told you to or the government told you. I was like, I would just like to have a conversation just so I can understand. And hopefully at the end of it, you can kind of see my side and I'll kind of see your side, but we'll agree to disagree. but we've come to a point where that's forbidden. You're not allowed to have a difference of opinion. You're not allowed to have a conversation where we're just like, we can have a
Well,
difference of
you're
opinion.
allowed to have a
I've been
difference of opinion, Pierre, but so long as your difference of opinion agrees with my opinion, then it's okay.
right, and that's the thing. Like me and Mill have been together 13 years, and we don't see eye to eye on everything. But it's just like, mostly when we're intoxicated, both of us, it's just be like,
Yeah.
okay, well, tell me your point of
when
view.
that's the case, you sleep on the couch, and then everything is
Yeah.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, like I want to see your point of view. Like, why do you think I'm wrong? Like, I'm not saying that your option is right, because from my point of view, you're wrong and you think I'm wrong. But I'm like, let's have a conversation. Why do you think that? Why, like, what's your thought method on saying I'm wrong? And this is my thought method of saying why you're wrong. And most of the time, we'll just be like, oh, I see how you got to that, but I still don't agree.
Yeah.
And then there's just certain subjects we don't talk about, for us, but we understand that we have a difference of opinion. And that's gone too much by the wayside. And society is stupid and people suck.
Well, what I have found in my advanced years is that people
suck.
Yeah. But it seems that if you have a difference of opinion, you cannot still be friends.
Unfortunately, these days it seems that is becoming more and more the trend, right?
Yeah.
And that is probably, well, it's a result of a lot of things. But for example, I know that we've had the faith discussion where you and Gavin, you and Andrew are particularly wrong, and I am correct, but we can still get along well.
Yeah. and that is
they will say
one of the things that we are not supposed to talk about.
No, but that's the thing. There's a lot.
I just want to know who's sleeping on the couch.
Well, nobody. We slept in our trailer, but
okay. There's a couch in the trailer.
But so I mean, this is the thing. Like,
it's a mutual respect of okay.
Yeah.
I don't agree with you. However, we have things we can agree on, and let's just move on from that and use that as our common point of reference. And we'll move on, and you do you, I'll do me, but we have these things in common that we can be part of, which allows for everyone to be.
Well, but I think that's what it is, though, is that like, and just so that everyone knows, we're talking about religion, right? So we have a disagreement 100%. On this, but like,
Thor's fake.
Yeah, absolutely. But at least it's an older fiction than Christianity's.
Touche.
But this is the thing. We are not afraid to have discourse on this and going into it, probably knowing that we are not going to change the other person's mind, nor are we really trying to change their mind. If anything, we're trying to learn more about it so that we're better educated about it and find that common ground, even though there are differences. Absolutely. But it's the people that aren't willing to have those conversations that it seems are the ones that get bent out of shape over things like that, to the point where like, and they're always the ones that are like, oh, you're not supposed to talk about that because that's what causes problems. Yet when you don't talk about it, that's what causes the problem. But when you have the ability to have those conversations and even like, poke fun at one another for it and not take it seriously.
Yeah.
And not that you don't take your beliefs seriously, but you don't take our comments about it seriously, because it is all in jest and it's all done in that sort of just spirit of like humor. Having a good time.
Just crude humor.
It's moving on. Let's go to the U of T thing because uncertainty in clouds. Toronto's bid to decriminalize drugs.
Yeah.
If we move on to that, like, who thought this would be a good idea?
Well, Toronto, apparently.
Yeah, Toronto. Let's be honest. Is that a fucking shocking thing?
BC thought it was a good idea,
which is not surprising that they were the first ones to do that. Yeah, and then it's not surprising that like
Toronto is number 2,
followed suit. But
BC going, wait a minute, this isn't a good idea.
Yeah,
like it's like, who thought this was a good idea in the first place?
Toronto said, "Hold my beer."
Yeah, despite the fact that BC has now asked, and not just asked, but begged the federal government to recriminalize drugs because they were having a massive problem with it. Toronto is worried that that recriminalization is going to screw up their bid to decriminalize hard drug use in public in Toronto. Like, why would you want to do that
I know
after the
that we are
failure
on,
of the BC program?
I know that with Pierre on the podcast, we're already hitting the explicit button. But what the fuck is the matter with these people?
Buddy, I have a simple solution. Let's ban Narcan. Okay, it's no longer publicly funded. Do whatever the fuck you want. Give it 9 fucking months. 90% of the parasites will be solved. And watch how much we save in fucking taxes.
It's absolutely insane. Like,
I don't get it, man.
I am willing to agree that every now and again we need to try some weird pilot projects to see if they work.
This is not it.
Well, we've already tried that.
Well, Toronto didn't, though.
Yeah, but
Toronto didn't.
Sure, but BC,
Toronto people are different than Vancouver people. Like,
yes,
just saying, right?
But if you look at this, so these people are living on the streets primarily.
Yes. Yeah.
The weather in Vancouver is far milder than it is in Toronto. So it is far easier to live on the streets in Vancouver than Toronto. Not that I'm saying living on the streets is easy, but it is easier, if you will, when the climate is not as harsh. If you now all of a sudden have people that are allowed to do all of the hard drugs in public, right? And I looked into this. So what they want to do is do this and have them all go to Moss Park, where they will get safe injection kits. And so if you go and look up Moss Park on the internet in Toronto here, so
it requires anything with Toronto. I don't Google
Queen
anything
Street East and Sherbourne Street is where Moss Park is. There is a lovely picture here of a playground. So this 3.4 hectare downtown park at Queen Street East and Sherbourne Street features a lit ball diamond, 2 tennis courts, a basketball court, a wading pool, and a children's playground. On the east side of park is Moss Park Arena and the John Innes Community Recreation Center. The Moss Park playground is open. Please use the west entrance near the community gardens. And this is where they want people to go and get their safe drug kits.
It makes sense because the baseball diamonds have lights,
lit,
so they can do it at night.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. I mean,
hold on, let me finish.
I understand the dripping sarcasm, but come on, are you fucking serious?
Yes. So, okay.
Unfortunately,
so it's a double. Yeah. So it's a double-edged sword, right? So let's thinking of a more sinister, diabolic way. If you get all the parasites to go somewhere, you can sort of control the parasites, right?
Yeah.
Not saying that's exactly what the plan is and that they're smart enough to think of that, but I'm just saying, right? Like, if you make a spot where it's a thing that you can do, yes, it's going to suck for all those other interactions, but now you may not have needles in all the parks. You may not have parasites in all the parks. You might not have all these things in every other park where you can take your kids. So if I lived close to that park and I realized this article came out and this is a thing, I'm going to take my kid to another park to go play because, they're 4 or 5 years old. So that's why I'm saying there's a double-edged sword. So if you're going to make it a thing, where it's just like, hey, you can have these 12 hectares or 4 acres, it doesn't matter, where it's a no-go zone. Cops won't really do anything. You can control.
But you can't, though,
to a certain
because
extent.
We already have safe injection sites where in Toronto you can go and legally do heroin, right?
Or anything.
Yeah.
Fine. Yeah,
and they'll
test
you.
it for you.
Yeah,
they'll test or they'll give you access to the
and apparently
material to test it.
That is not enough. It's now to the point where, and I understand the whole harm reduction thing and how, like, if you look at like Portugal and things like that, where they have like decriminalized drug possession and focused more on, like, instead of arresting people, they've put more into programs to help people, like, one, not get on drugs to begin with, or two, when they are on drugs, get off the drugs. But like BC never did any of that. They're just like, here you go, guys. here's the free stuff. Go and do the drugs in the public. And like there were no boundaries to it at all. It wasn't like,
Yeah.
okay, we're gonna like say you can do the drugs and we're not gonna arrest you for doing it. But like if you do them near a playground where there are children, we are still going to arrest you. Like
Yeah.
you could put that stipulation in, right? But
Yeah,
no, they didn't.
100%.
They're just like, it's a free for all to the point where they were allowing them to do drugs in the hospital.
Yeah.
Like next to like a maternity ward and stuff like that. So here you are
Yeah.
like smoking crack inside the hospital where like you're not allowed to smoke a vape.
Yeah, but the secondhand
But the-
smoke from crack is different.
But the crack or the meth or whatever, yeah. Like yeah,
Yeah,
it just
it's
hits different than the
different. It's
vape, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
it's just insane. And then the fact that Toronto still wants to do this after the BC one was such a miserable failure is insane. Like, I get it. You got to try some different things sometimes and think outside the box. But when it is a failure, you have to admit that it is a failure. See previous conversation in tonight's episode about learning
Yeah.
how to fail and accept it graciously, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Like, should we just not offer Narcan and watch if like
I had a thought about
Many
this
things
on the
get-
way. I was driving home tonight. I'm thinking, you know what? It's kind of like taking the warning labels off everything.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm all
like,
about it.
okay,
Yeah,
people want safe injection sites. Okay, go to this block. Here's everything you want. Go nuts.
Yeah.
We'll come back in 6 weeks, clean all the bodies out. That's it. You're done.
But no, for real though,
Yeah.
we should take the warning labels off of it.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
just I do not understand. And this actually ties into, if I may be so bold,
I feel a segue coming on.
to the next of the U of T encampment protesters. It's like, what makes you think that you can do whatever you want, wherever you want, whenever you want?
because we never spanked children
So U of T
and we gave them
protesters.
participation badges.
Yeah, exactly. So U of T
Yeah.
protesters, I was listening today. They're concerned that there are surveillance cameras watching them all the time, and they're in various stages of undress. Well, A, go fucking home. But B, how about I find where you live and go sleep in your bed for the night and see how you like it?
Well, I mean, there is no
Well.
expectation of privacy when you're in public property, right?
But
And it's not my fault
I'm
you don't touch.
protesting. I'm
Yeah.
protesting, and you have cameras up, so you shouldn't be watching me, even though they were there before I got there. So you have to get rid of them. Like,
Yeah.
take a
There's
long walk.
There's a
off a
whole
short
lot
pier.
going on with this that like I find it fascinating to watch it as like a study, but also just like insane. Like
I'm pretty
The
sure
thing
we've
is-
done this study with rats.
The
And
thing
we
that
did the expectation.
got me this week was I mean, this U of T protest with Palestine and all that. Like, A, it shows how stupid the university students are. But B,
Yeah.
I tied it into the Columbia, like, and in Columbia University, I'm sure you guys saw the meme where it said they had spray painted on the steps of one of their buildings, "Free Palestine,"
yeah, they spelled it
Yes.
wrong.
and they spelled Palestine wrong. It's like,
So
Okay,
I am
like-
of the opinion that like whether I agree with you or not, and however distasteful I find your protest, you should be allowed to peacefully protest.
Yeah.
That does not necessarily mean that you can forcibly occupy private property.
So whose private property?
Well,
Is
so
this?
this is the university owns this property.
Okay. So are most of the people on there university students?
It is students and staff and
they pay for the right to be there.
faculty.
They exactly. So I'm sorry, that private property kind of goes out the way when I pay fucking 20,000, 50,000 to be there. That
But-
becomes part of my property. Yeah.
But no,
But it
no,
doesn't,
it doesn't
though.
become your property.
Yeah.
You're paying for the right to use it. And if you're not
Exactly.
using it, if you're not using it the way the owner wants you to use it, then you have to back off.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
that's the way that
Can I-
is.
That is
Agreed.
I mean, I have renters in
agree.
my house, and it's like, here are my
Pulling-
rules. You break these rules, you're done.
Yes. Yeah. I don't entirely disagree, but
And I'm
Slightly.
older than you, so I'm a little more probably grumpier. But
oh, buddy, we can have a petty challenge later, not tonight. But it's just one of those things where I'm just like, I have a problem with someone saying, especially a university, saying, "Well, this is our property. This is what we want," because this goes against what we want, where we're in participation of it. But let's just say the Freedom Convoy happened there, and 90% of the people wanting to do that protest were against what the Freedom Convoy were, and they were doing whatever. We would have an issue with them telling them to get off. So I'm just saying, like, there's a fine line of where we will disagree of something not happening because we don't see it as being useful, compared to if we saw it towards something we supported, we would
Well,
have an issue with them getting off.
absolutely.
Right.
There
And
is
I'm like,
certainly
there's that
inherent bias
very
in
fine line.
everybody. But I would
Yeah.
also say though that like there's a difference between like if they were meeting in the square every day and we're having a protest where they are standing there and holding signs and doing all of the stuff, it is one thing. When they are erecting a fence and putting up tents and controlling
Right.
who
So,
can and cannot come into that square, that is crossing a line. And I would
so
I would say
you're
that I feel
walking
that
a
would,
really fine line of what the protest was in Ottawa, right? The Freedom Convoy.
but the difference with that is public property versus private property. So when the government owns something, it is public property.
and and that's why I'm saying, like, there's a very fine line.
Well, no,
where
there's a big
most
difference between public property and private property. So if Freedom
we're in
Convoy,
Canada, there's no difference.
but there is.
Well, no, we don't have property rights. It's
Well,
right, the
no,
only
that's the
reason this is
problem.
an issue.
But
But-
so if somebody went and it was like anti-vax and all of that stuff and set up a protest on your front lawn and pitched a tent and was being
Yeah.
a general nuisance to you, even though you agreed with their cause, would you want them off of your front lawn?
Yes, but I also
But how would you do
have a
that
hard
though?
on.
Because
I have a shotgun, and then back.
well, but they're protesting and there's no such thing as property rights in private
But if
property.
nobody knows, and you
Right?
plant flowers that nobody can dig up,
So if they
how
would
are
like
they going to find a body?
if they would like to go and protest and
Yeah.
do it in the public commons on whatever it is, so I had no problem with them like doing the protests on the streets, and in fact I was standing up for them saying
Yeah,
that like,
I-
well, we
I
were
went to
doing
it.
we were doing the same
Like-
thing when it was the Freedom Convoy and like
Yep.
shutting down public roads and protesting in the streets. I have no problem with that, whatever they're doing, as much as I might find it a nuisance and sometimes like really annoying and like,
Yeah.
and it can actually be detrimental to your protest because
Yes,
you've annoyed people. But if it's done on public property that the citizens have access to, I don't have a problem with it. But
Right.
when it is private property, because I expect my private property rights to be respected.
I'm looking in the comments here, and the problem is saying it is not private property, but if U of T owns it, it is private property. So I would agree that on my property, such as it is, if I don't want
Yeah.
you there, I should be able to get you off. And I think it's a big political thing, I think.
so
Yeah,
Sorry,
now we're
sorry, the
walking-
problem, but I think I think that I would have the right to not have you there.
I mean, I think
So-
what these people are demanding is a little ridiculous, and I don't think that it's going to solve
If-
the problem.
If I may, I'm gonna plug a podcast that I listen to that you may or may not
Yeah.
have heard of it. It's called Trigonometry.
Mhm.
It's by Chris Constantine Kissin and Francis Foster. They're English, and they were talking about a lot of this stuff. And they actually went to a pro-Palestinian protest in London, and were asking people,
London, Ontario, or London, England.
London, England. They said,
Okay.
so
There's
you're
a giant
you're
factor
carrying
in
a
how
sign.
everybody's going to interpret it.
No, that's fine. You're carrying a sign that says it's kind of a parallel from the river to the sea, And he says, what does that mean to you? And the protester says, I don't know. I went over there and picked the sign up from the table. They told me to carry it around.
Well, and I think this
So
is part of the
most
problem
of the
with the
people that are
vast majority of
camping
people.
So
don't even know what they're doing.
Yeah,
So-
I would
which-
say this
which
is the
makes it even
problem
more
with a lot
frustrating.
of protests these days is that the people get involved aren't educated enough and are just like getting swept up in whatever excitement and
the-
social
the
group
thing-
they're part of.
I
is
stand for
supporting.
the next thing.
Yeah.
It's like, come
yeah,
on.
so the other problem I have with this is because the university owns the property and they can dictate what happens. I also have an issue where it's the university stands by something, they wouldn't even blink an eye at this protest.
Well, yeah, I
Right.
mean, but
Like,
that
so-
is
so
also
not-
their prerogative because it is their property, right? Just like if,
Right,
if
but
I
I'm just
wanted
saying,
to,
like, you can't say you're for the people and you're here to enrich the people with knowledge of the future and have these hard lines. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Yes, this is our property, so fine. They could say that only people that go to
But
this
they cannot
university
lead
can
it.
but only people that go to this university can participate in these things. But if you want to say you have an open door policy or you want to be gender neutral or everybody gets a participation badge, fine. You can predict who goes on the property. You pay to be at this university. You can protest here, whether I agree with it or not. Because if this was a anti trucker convoy thing, the university would be subsidizing everything because most universities and people that get
yes,
government
but this
grants
is this
did
is
not
the
agree with it.
problem
But-
with universities in general,
Yeah,
and
yeah. So that's like there's a fine line where I'm like, fine. They say they just fine. You either can protest whether we agree with it or not, or no one is allowed to protest.
well, but I
There
think
needs
this,
to be that
this
hard
again,
distinction.
though. Well, but I think this again falls back to like there's a lot of misunderstanding of what freedom of speech means.
We
So-
don't. It doesn't exist in Canada.
Well, I mean, I agree
I
with
am
that,
going to
but
do jail
e-
time for a lot of
even-
shit I have fucking said
e-
online.
even if we did truly have freedom of speech in this country, freedom of speech guarantees you that you get no interference from the government or repercussions from the government in terms of the things that you say. But
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that there are not consequences. And it
Yep.
certainly doesn't mean that you can say whatever it is that you want to say wherever you are, because
Yep.
other people's rights, including their private property rights, trump that. So, like, if you want to come and stand on my property and tell me how awesome I am, I will gladly let you stand there all day and do that.
Yeah.
But I also don't have to put up with you talking shit about me on my property. And I have the right to expel you then. Now, if you go out
Yes.
into the public commons and want to talk shit about me, then there is nothing I can
But-
do other than start talking shit about you or try to drum up
But
public support
unless-
and like try to get you ostracized. So there will still be
Yes.
consequences to your actions,
But if
but not
you
government
you
consequences.
charged 100 people $100 a month to access your property.
But I'm not
And-
charging them to access my
no.
property.
So-
I am
so
charging them to
if you-
attend my
if-
classes.
So to access the property,
No.
fine. Well, that's what I'm saying. If they own the property, then the classes and the property fall hand
But there's
in
a
hand.
difference though. So like if you pay your tuition to attend the university, that means you have the ability to go and attend the classes that you are supposed to attend. It doesn't mean that you can attend any class that you want, and it doesn't mean that you have access to any and all faculty buildings. And if you
Sure.
want to try and go and use like the pool or the fitness center without paying the additional fees to use the fitness center, even though it is part of the university, they won't let you.
No, but that doesn't mean you can't walk across this property to get to another class without paying an extra
But
fee.
the-
So
but
it's
there's
kind
a
of
difference
included
between-
with tuition.
Well, no. If you need to walk across the property to access the class that you have paid for, then yes, you're allowed to do that.
But you're not allowed to sit down and read a book, or you're not allowed to sit down and do this specific thing. Like
But
that's what I'm
they're
saying.
letting
There's
you-
a
but this-
very fine line.
But that's how private
What we're
property
talking about.
works.
Okay, so there's not a fine line. When I was
Yeah,
in
there is.
college, many
Yeah,
moons
but back
ago, I
then,
think.
like, fucking, you took the fucking school bus that was run by Dino. There's a
Okay,
whole
yo,
different
fuck
thing
you,
there.
Pierre. Okay, but many moons ago, I was allowed to go
Many.
into the common area. They call them common areas, the
Yeah.
cafeterias, all that you could go into, but you couldn't walk in any classroom.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
So-
anything extra that you wanted to go into, you had to sign in and know why you were there. And if there was a fee to pay, you would pay to be there. You just couldn't go in. So it's the entitlement. Again, I'm showing my age, but
Yeah.
there's a bit of respect for institutions that I would say a lot of people that are, knowing how old you guys are, your age,
Yeah.
think they are entitled to. But I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
but-
you're fucking not.
Okay. So
You
let me
are
put it.
not entitled
So-
to it.
But
when
also,
I-
when we went to school, there wasn't a fucking different section for colors.
So when I
Okay,
was
I'm
in
not that old, Pierre.
so when I was in, I'll bring this to a
Okay,
different
let
topic,
me
but
reiterate,
similar.
Pierre, my first comment.
Yeah. So when I was in university, there was a protest by the students, and so a lot of it happened in the public commons, and people were complaining about some actions that the faculty took. Most of it happened, on a daily basis, and then like at night, everyone would kind of disperse, or the people were just standing around. At one point, though, the students forcibly entered a faculty building and took control of an office and camped out in there for several weeks. They were given all of the notice to vacate the premises,
That's called trespassing.
but did not. In the middle of the night, the cops came in through the window and arrested everybody, and they all got expelled. And a bunch of people were saying you can't do that. They're protesting and all of these things, and this is too,
bullshit.
like, why did you come in the middle of the night? Well, sorry, but the cops came in the middle of the night to mitigate, the chances that they would get injured. There was a good chance that, like, you guys would respond violently or resist, and to mitigate that, they came in when they thought you would be asleep through an entrance that you were not prepared for them to come in. That is the police doing their job. Now, that doesn't mean that the police can come in and just smash you about the face,
No.
right? There are some limits to that, but
Yes.
they did that. So is them taking control of a faculty building any different than them taking control of a public access area, even though it's not public access?
Yes.
Because it is still owned by the university?
Yes.
It's
So,
their property.
so right off the get-go, I was peeing and I wanted to interrupt, but I was on mute,
Yeah.
so you didn't hear me pee. So,
That's a good thing.
faculty
What about a
buildings.
short pee, though?
Yeah, it was. I've been drinking a lot. But faculty buildings are normally off limits to almost all students, other
Okay.
than the goody two shoes.
But
Whatever the thing
I've
is.
paid my tuition. I should have
Yeah,
access.
no. But so that's predetermined, right? You don't have access to the faculty buildings.
But
You've
so
paid
is
your
the
tuitions,
public
that-
commons. You have access to it so long as you behave in a correct manner. So if I go there and start harassing people and being belligerent, they're going to ask me
Yeah.
to leave, and they will trespass me.
Yes. So, but that also comes to interpretation, right? So if
No. Because
yeah,
Pierre,
no.
you can't. The place you work at, and Gavin, the place you work at. Yeah, Pierre, you can't walk into the president's office and go, "Hey, what's going on today? Why am I doing this shit?" And Gavin, if the floor sweeper came into you and said, "Hey, I want a raise," you're like, "Get the fuck out of here!"
so-
there are
exactly.
there's a hierarchy for a reason.
Yes, and I'm not disagreeing with that, but I'm just saying, so faculty buildings, whether you pay your tuition or not, are predetermined areas where you're either
Yeah.
invited or you're not allowed. That's predetermined, right?
Yes, but
Right when you sign on that paper saying I'm giving you money, that's an understanding that you have.
Okay, so
But this,
if I wasn't protesting,
yeah,
and I wanted to set up a tent in the public commons and just sleep there because I didn't want to pay for residence, could I do that?
yeah, why not? I don't give a shit.
Would the university be right in telling me to leave?
Is it in the rules of of the university? If the rule,
Right, and that's
when they set the club up, they say you cannot
These are the
do
rules.
this.
Well, I would imagine that most universities don't have a rule that specifically says that you can't set up a tent and live in the public commons
I'd be
space.
surprised if they don't. To be 100%,
So
honest, I would be surprised.
But
here's
that
the
kind of
crux of
just
it.
goes with like common understanding. Like same as like if I had a
But-
business, like and
So
there's a front lawn of my business, you can't just set up a tent there and live there.
so we,
No,
well,
and I'm just saying. Go ahead, Eric.
Here's the punchline to this story. I read the article and they say we are prepared to be here through the summer and through the fall. If I was a university, I would say, okay, no
Yeah, come
problem.
winter, they're gonna fuck
Knock
right
yourself
off.
out.
Like, come
Talk to
fucking
me
winter.
in March.
Yeah.
I bet you all
Talk
you
to me in
fuckers
January.
going back home in March, and we'll see how strong your resolve is.
Yeah.
If you're here in March, then we'll talk. Because
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you are not sleeping in a tent in March or in
No.
January, February, December, November.
Yeah, you have not lasted that long. You're gonna
No,
fuck off as soon as
it's
it
like,
gets
come
cold.
on, like it's. I protest the next thing that's convenient for me because I am too dumb to actually think for myself.
To be fair, though,
Right,
they might
if-
also leave come August because it's going to be too hot and humid.
Good
Right.
for them. I don't care. Like I
But
don't care.
I'm just
Like,
saying, if this
go
was
get
a
a
Black
fucking
Lives
job and
Matter,
work for yourself.
but if this was a Black Lives Matter protest, right? Fucking that George Floyd thing a few years ago.
Oh, it'd be all on
or
fire.
whatever.
That'd be a whole
Right,
different thing.
So it wouldn't be on fire, but the university would be behind it. So that's why I'm saying I have an issue
But that
with the
is
university.
their. I
No.
agree. It is not being
It's-
enforced fairly, but that is also their prerogative, as it is their private property
There is
to
no
enforce. Yeah, it's they can do what they want because they own
So
the
when I
property.
pay my tuition, can I abstain from using that property and save money?
No, but like you also have the choice to pay to use it or not, and use it to the most of your ability. But also, if you go and use it in a way that they determine is not how they want you to use it, they can tell you to leave.
So does that mean I get all the information of what I can and cannot do before signing that dotted line?
Not necessarily, but that's not how
But-
it works when you go to visit a business or somebody's home either. There is no document, but that's up to
No,
you.
but I get somewhere and I said, okay, you leave. Whether I have
Okay.
purchased something or not, I just wasted my time. But I invested a bunch of money to go to university.
Yes, but
and
you went to go to
later.
the university for the purpose of learning. If you go to the university for the purposes of being a shit disturber, even
Yeah,
if you
but
have
those-
paid the tuition,
Yeah. But I can choose
That's
to come
not-
over to your house and be a shit disturber and
Yes.
leave. And now I need to stop at Wendy's and pick up a Baconator because I shit disturbed before we had supper. It's completely different than me paying tuition and being kicked out because
it's not though.
you didn't specify what I'm allowed and not.
Okay, so if you go, if I have paid to go and see a movie,
Yeah.
right? I have a
Yeah,
right
right.
to access the movie theater, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Is anywhere in buying my ticket say that I cannot be loud and obnoxious?
I don't know because I don't know that, but it's kind of an unwritten rule.
So what you're saying is that unwritten rules exist, but they are still rules.
But they are unwritten rules that everybody knows. Or
I would
most
say
people-
that an unwritten rule is you are not allowed to come into the park that's part of a university and set up a tent and live there for 6 months.
Yeah.
Hence why I said it's a very fine fucking line we're talking about.
Well,
But
Right?
it's,
Like-
it's not. It's like
It is.
Pierre, I'm going
I
to come
see
to your
both
house
parts.
and pitch my tent in your front yard and live there because I'm protesting.
I will get a
I don't
fucking
like. I don't
backhoe
like
beer.
tactical beards. What are you going to do?
I will come
all
here.
right, we
I
can
will-
agree to disagree on this one. Let's get to the
Yeah,
last
100%.
one.
100%,
I
right?
agree.
And I'm just saying-
but but until it's actually in your backyard, it's like we can argue all
Well,
this, but you got to
yeah.
think about it as if
Well.
it's what happens to me.
Yeah.
Well,
And
we
that's what I'm
go
saying.
from
There's a
fine
fine line.
lines to not picking any line at all.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Canada abstains from UN Assembly vote backing Palestine bid for membership. So whether you agree with it or not, the turd has once again shown that he has zero balls and has decided to not pick either side.
Okay, so why does
No.
it look like the picture on this
Really?
article? He's trying to hold in a poop.
Probably because he is. And by poop, you mean butt plug.
That's beside the point. That
So,
big
yeah,
weird
and
one
this
that
is my
flashes
problem with
when you clap
Trudeau.
your
Like,
hands.
I get that, like, politicians need to politic, but, like, have some balls.
Yeah, so the whole problem with this is we did so much cock sucking to try and get a position on the fucking UN Council due to the turd. And we didn't even get it. And it cost us how much in tax dollars and how much in
but-
fucking useless shit. So we don't even have a position on the fucking UN Council or whatever. And we're gonna stand here and be like, oh, they shouldn't get a membership. Like, you didn't fucking get one doing your stupid shit. We shouldn't have a fucking say. Shut your
Well,
hole
but, I mean,
and go watch
if
your
we're-
wife get fucked by a black guy.
I mean, if we're going to be part of the UN, and I am all for
I'm against
disbanding the UN, right? Like, we
I'm-
should
yeah,
not be part of
against UN. No,
it. Yeah,
no
100.
such
I
thing.
agree. 100%. We should
Blue
disband the
helmets,
UN and
freedom.
get rid of it. But if we're going to be part of it, we should participate in it. So, like, he's doing the right thing, but like in the wrong way again, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, if you're
Yeah.
not going to participate in it, then just let's get out of it, and then we don't have to do anything that they want,
Yeah.
right? Like, and really, I have zero skin in this game.
No,
I am not from either of those countries, nor do I have family in either of those countries. And it
And-
really makes no difference to me,
no, but I
except that my
I'm
tax dollars
hoping-
are going to probably both of
Yeah.
them, which drives me
Yeah.
crazy.
But anybody who
But-
has people there, like, I feel for you, and I'm like, I hope everything works.
absolutely.
And like,
It's
if
a
I know
horrible thing to
you,
be
send me a
happening.
message. I'll get you money. I'll do the best I can to get
It is
funds
a horrible
to you
thing
so that
is
you can
going
get people
on,
out of there.
But
I give no fucks
It's-
giving about the
it-
UN.
it's a politician politicking, and he's doing it to the point where, like, he can't even pick a side because he's so worried. Like, if he votes to say yes that we should support it, then he shits on Israel. If he votes to say no, then he kind of shits on, like, not just Palestine but every Muslim nation
But-
there. So he can't
Polymer? No.
But,
what do
like,
you call
Olivier.
any Palestinians?
but you have to
Polymer? It's plastic, right?
to pick a side sometimes,
Have
Yeah,
you
but-
seen?
or-
right
Or
or
just
wrong.
stand there and be like, I don't fucking agree with either one. I'm out.
So on
But
my
then
watch
nothing wrong
list
with
for this week,
But
Tammy.
he doesn't say that. He just doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
Well, on my watch list this week, my wife. There's an interview on Rumble with Tucker Carlson and Justin's brother, saying that Justin is kind of a kept man. So it's not even him.
I figured the cocking thing where
It's
he sat in a corner with
it's terrible.
the bodyguard,
just-
but
We are kind of just
Well, but this is the thing. Like I said, like, right or wrong, pick a side and
Yeah.
have some
stand by
balls.
it.
And
Have
then, like,
some balls.
if you make the wrong choice, admit that you have made the wrong choice and correct it.
I've made many statements that I will stand by that many people will agree, and I've probably been wrong, just like the Sikh Muslim thing, and I still stand by it. I fucking posted about it a little while ago, and I'm just it's just one of those things where I'm just like, I stand by what I said. I might have been wrong. I might have been not
Well, but
right,
that's-
however
but
you want to
that's the
word
thing,
it,
is
but
you-
it's like,
you take ownership of the things
Yeah.
that you've said and done,
100%.
and, like, if you realize that you're wrong, then, like, do what you can to correct it. But, like, pick a
or
side.
just
Have
not
some-
care and stand by it
Well,
100%.
but then you have to vocalize it then, like we've just done. We're like I don't give a shit one way or the other because this doesn't affect me,
Mhm.
right? But like
I
But
kind
at
of
the
agree
end of the
with you
day,
there,
it
Gavin.
is affecting
Yeah.
us because our tax dollars are going towards something.
well,
Well,
yes, it's
right.
going to both
And
sides.
it's not even our
it's like
tax
this is
dollars,
my tax
right?
dollars
It's
paying for rockets on
generations
both sides
from
of
now.
Like,
But,
come
Like
on.
Gavin,
generations from now, tax dollars.
if I may say, Gavin, you've made a point though, because I remember growing up and like it was
And the
when I went.
Velociraptor was extinct.
So, when I was growing up, we had the UNICEF box, and you give us $1 for Ethiopia and all that stuff.
Yeah,
And
Halloween,
as
you
I've
go
grown
around.
up, I've realized that honestly, I don't. I have empathy
Yeah.
for unfortunate situations.
Yes.
I have my own family, so I don't
So-
really care
Well, and so some interesting
because
things that I
I'm
was
worried
having.
about what's
Yeah,
going on here.
I've had
And the
very
problem
similar
is our
conversations
government.
recently. Yeah.
Yeah, our government doesn't care, seem to care about what is going on here, and is looking at the global stage going, we care about what's going on there, ignoring what's going on here. And
Absolutely. And
so
if you,
that's why I really don't care what's going on out there, because I'm more worried about looking after what's going on
absolutely,
here.
and I feel the same way. It's not that I don't I don't wish ill will upon, well, some people, but they deserve it in my mind. But like the
Yeah.
people in the other parts of the world that are having a hard time because things are difficult over there and everything else, I
Yes.
certainly do not wish that on them, and I wish the best for them. But if you go and refer back to like when we did like the Way of Men and like other, becoming a barbarian and those things, we talk a little bit about this and how the way that people's opinions throughout time have
Right.
changed, and we start to care more about, the starving children in Africa was the popular one when we were in our youth, right? And so UNICEF
Yes,
would give them all
100%.
the money and all of this. And it's like, it's not that I feel like we shouldn't help people, but also like we're sending our money that way to help them while there are still things in
Well,
our
my
own
kids are
country
starving.
that like, but how can we do that? But like we are being told by the powers that be to care more about the things that are happening in other parts of the world. Meanwhile, we're ignoring things in our own, not even our own country, our own municipality, that are
Or your
just
own
as bad
backyard.
or not worse.
Yeah, like
And
your own
that's the
backyard at
weird
this
like
point.
thing. We've gotten so thinking globally that we have forgotten to think locally, and that we're not like,
Agreed.
when you're on an airplane, like you put your own mask on first so that you can help your child, because like your child can't reach the thing, and if you black out because you went to go do theirs first and can't do it, well then you
You're both dead.
die,
You're
right?
both dead.
Yeah.
I agree.
And so
Yeah,
yes, helping people is noble, and like, and this is why I started doing volunteer work, because I want to make my community a better place.
Yeah.
But it all starts by doing something locally, and then once you don't have any local problems, you can expand that out, and you don't even have to get it perfect, but
No.
you can't help other people to your detriment, because
No.
then nobody's
And-
better off.
Right. And like, so me and Mel have different religious, you whatever you want to call it, things. So we have this conversation often where I kind of do it as a jab, but she believes that everybody is sent to Earth and has a predetermined deal of exactly who your parents are going to be and exactly how your life is going to be. So if you start understanding that, you feel a lot less for the starving people because they signed up for it.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the way that it is, then it is
That's-
predetermined that that's it, and there is nothing
Yeah.
that you could do.
Yeah. So
That's a whole
it's
other
just one of those
discussion,
things where I'm
Peter.
just like,
Yeah,
yeah, I know, like it's dark, it's morbid, but I'm like,
Well,
it's
no, I
just
mean,
no. And I mean, like we've been together 13 years. We've been married for almost one, like or just past one, sorry. but like we've been together for a long time, and I'm like, I grew up Catholic.
Try
I'm not a
38 years, buddy.
I've not a practicing Catholic. But she
That's
has a
good.
difference. She has a difference in opinion and everything of her religious
Yeah.
views. Right? She
So if
goes
you're a
more
practicing
pagan.
Catholic, when do you become a
I
real
am
one if you're just practicing?
I am not a practicing Catholic, right?
It's like
But
doctors,
it's one
like
of those.
I'm practicing medicine. Well, when are you gonna get good at it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
Become a
exactly,
real
right?
one.
yeah, so I
And
think it
it's one
comes
of those
down.
things where I'm like, we've had many discussions about her point of view, and I'm like, my upbringing. I was like, I grew up like there was no such thing as sleeping in on Sundays. You woke up and you went to church, and the only way I got out of it was I got a job, and I was like, I had to go to work
Yeah.
before church started. Where it was one of those things where it's just like, okay, and we've had many conversations, and it's just one of those things where it's just like, if you follow your view, she's like, oh, why is life so shitty? I was like, you fucking signed up for it, bitch. Right?
Yeah. Well,
And
so this
that
is
mostly gets me in
yeah.
trouble, but
Well, yeah.
it's one of those things where it's just like,
That comes with the experience that you learn that. Yeah.
yeah. So it's one of those things where it's just like, like I don't get me wrong. I don't want any of my tax dollars because 90% of my tax dollars right now are paying off debt that my great grandchildren are going to pay off. So I don't want to send any money to Israel, Ukraine,
Yeah. Same.
UNICEF,
but
whatever. So I would prefer that to be here so that hopefully only my grandchildren have to pay off that deficit. My great
or at the
grandchildren
very
can be
least,
profitable.
you get to decide who
Yeah.
you support with your tax dollars as
Yeah.
opposed to some other ones doing it. But and this is the thing, like the concept in the becoming a barbarian, where if you were
Yes,
to like
that's a
as
good
of
book.
right now,
Yeah.
like stop time, take all of the names of everybody that is currently living at the moment and write them on a piece of paper. Right?
I'd
Like
have
there were
like 6
no
people,
extra people.
and we're a family of 3.
Yeah, but there'd be no extra people born. It's all of the people that are currently alive on the planet right now, and you were able to write their names down on a piece of. You would not be able to write down all of the names in your lifetime of the people that are alive on the planet right now.
No.
And that would only
Dave.
take you a couple of seconds per name.
No.
You are expected to somehow care as much about that entire list of people that you couldn't even possibly complete in your lifetime as you are about your family, your friends, the people in your local community. And again, it's not that I wish ill will upon any of those people that are
No.
outside of that, but the average person only really has capacity to care for 15 or so people.
I would
And
say
anything
15. Yeah,
outside of that, it's not that you don't
it's a
care about them,
stretch.
but like
It's a
that you
stretch.
truly care about, that like you would go to the ends of the earth to do anything for. And obviously,
They
like
called
when
you.
times are good, that can increase a little bit. But like when times get tough, like they are right now, where it's hard enough to put food on your own table,
Yeah,
that
you're not
circle
part of
gets
my
smaller and
exception
smaller
list.
and smaller and
You're
smaller.
you're not part of the exception list on my
So
do not disturb at 2 o'clock in the morning.
if
Like
if
there's
I
very
can't
few people that
if
can
I
call me
can't
at three
feed
o'clock in the morning.
myself or my own
Yeah.
family, I
How are you?
like I really don't give a shit about feeding people on the other side of the world because I need to
No.
eat.
Yeah.
And like it
And those
sounds
15 people I care about.
selfish,
But
but it's realistic.
That's a harsh reality because most people want to be able to do that because they don't understand
Yeah.
what is going on right in front of them, and they don't want to face the reality of what their real life is. It's easier to think they're doing good around the world
Yeah.
while the world is collapsing around them.
Absolutely. It's a
it's
distraction,
easy
and
to jump
it's
on a
the
bandwagon.
progressive nonsense that has led us to that. Well, and that is what has allowed the family unit and the community to collapse around us, because we have started to find these artificial connections to people
Yeah.
So the
around the
nuclear
world.
family is not dead
But do you
because
think
they
those people give a shit about you?
no, but thankfully we've figured out how dudes can breastfeed children.
Yeah, absolutely. And a
So,
lot of the
it's like,
times,
hey,
like we do
that's key.
things. So, like you
That's
look
key.
at it, and I was having this conversation about UNICEF because, like, Halloween, you get the little box, you go around, you
Yeah.
collect money.
Fuck, I remember
like,
that. It's not a thing
For
anymore.
every dollar that UNICEF gets, how much of that actually makes it to the people in need? Because that is a massive organization that
13 cents.
they're not all volunteers, right? So like they get paid, and like if the UN has a big fucking building in New York, that costs rent and property tax and maintenance and utilities and all of that. Like that costs money to maintain that, and they have offices around the world and staff around the world that need to get paid, and all those people get paid first, and then whatever's left out of that goes to whatever cause they're doing. But then they also have to print the boxes and do the advertisements on TV, which then further reduces that. So yeah, if it is 13 cents, which it wouldn't surprise me if it is.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to write that in Google, because last I heard, I'm pretty sure it was fairly close to 13 cents of every dollar UNICEF contributions.
87 cents, if I'm doing my math correctly, goes to administrative costs.
Somebody else, yeah.
Right? And sometimes, yes, there are some necessary evils and expenses that you need to pay in order to do something, right? Like, but there's probably a better way to skin that cat, right? That our money would get more bang for its buck by doing something different.
Right. And let's be honest, a lot of whatever TV put the ad out for UNICEF would get a kickback because it's a non-contribution. The cardboard company.
So they're either getting like a tax break, or they're doing something.
Yeah, they're getting a tax break. So it will cost taxpayers dollars, but maybe not UNICEF itself.
And so
I'll give them that, but I'm still saying they're robbing you
paying
fucking
for it, right? And that's when you look at when you look at the big companies that do a thing where like, oh, if you donate this, we will match your donation, right? You give them a couple of dollars, they get the giant tax donation because they're the ones that have donated it to the charity, not you, right? So when massive corporations do that,
the bottom line is you and I, as the three little people here, we're not doing much.
No.
So
great. So whenever you go somewhere, you're paying your groceries. For example, I was at the LCBO today picking up booze. You want to
that's not groceries.
Donate. Yeah.
Sure it is.
Donate $1 to donate money to
because the LCBO gets that tax donation. You don't.
Right. So they collect all the money. And then they've taken $1 from you and everybody that walks through that door. And they say, hey, we are now, as LCBO, we are giving $700,000 to Chio.
And what's even crazier is like, so say like you go and do that and they give it to UNICEF. So you've donated $1, they donate $1 million, $10 million, whatever it is. They get the $10 million tax credit because they have made a donation.
Even though
the people in need only get 13 cents out of that, which makes it even more ridiculous. So don't do it. Act locally.
Yeah.
Think locally.
So if it's a local charity or whatever, just say no. Walk up to the charity, and if do your own research, do your own due diligence, and walk in and just be like, "Here's here's $20. I got asked the other day if I wanted to donate at the grocery store, and I figured I'd come in and give you $20 cash. I don't even need a tax receipt. Would make you feel better at the charity." As long as you do your due diligence and make sure they don't get 13 cents on the dollar.
At least if you know what going in, that's your choice. But either way, fuck them all. All right.
Yeah, fuck them.
Now that we've...
If I may say, after all this long dissertation, we'd love to hear your feedback about how the show went tonight and all the other previous shows. So please visit us, CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback, or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast. And a version of the show will be available on Apple or on iTunes. I'm sorry, I'm an Android guy, so I'm not big a fan, but anyway. So we look forward to hearing from your feedback. And yeah, Gavin.
Awesome. All right. Eric, where can people find you when you're not on the podcast?
I am, if you can, if you're a good puzzle solver, I am on Facebook. And other than that, here. So,
All right. Pierre, where can people find your wife's business?
Yeah, my wife's business, Off the Wall Customizing. I think we're on the socialist medias or at gmail.com, Off the Wall Customizing. Or you can find me on Sunday nights. Why there's interesting facts about how you should prepare for the economic collapse that we talk about on Mondays, or at least the Fed's kicking in your door and trying to take you out in a black hood, and what you should do to prep for that. On so that's Sunday nights on Canadian Prepper podcast on
All right.
YouTube's and Bookface.
You can find me on Instagram, UrbexGTA. Also, if you listen to the Prepper thing, occasionally I get on there. Haven't been in a while, but you will find me at the annual Prepper meet this year in Alliston. I will be there teaching some stuff.
Nice.
So come hang out, say hello.
Which teaching?
Stop the bleed.
Nice. Took it. It's awesome. Do it.
I'll be teaching people how to finger bang wounds for fun and profit.
Yep.
Because you can charge people before you put your fingers inside of them.
Yep.
Otherwise, if you've listened to the show this long, you definitely deserve a discount code at RagnarOkTactical.ca. Use the code Patriot at checkout to get some gauze that you could use to finger bang somebody's wound. It'll make it a little bit easier.
Yep.
Because if you just put your finger in there, it doesn't stop the bleeding.
If
You'll be
you
like the
figure
boy
out
with his
how
finger
they
in the
can pay
dike, yeah.
you first, you're making bank,
but yeah. Otherwise, apologies to Rod. I don't have a good excuse for him this year or this week.
But we were talking Toronto drugs, not
not BC. Yeah, they
BC,
managed
yeah.
to solve that problem there.
yeah. So he was confused on how legislation works province to province. So
also, to answer Taxpayer Dave's question, I'll probably be doing it at least once a day. I don't have the exact time of day yet, but it will be at least once a day during the event that I will be doing a Stop the Bleed thing. So, like, just come and hang out. We can drink alcohol and stuff, and you can learn other skills as well. It'll be a good time. But remember, you are a small fringe minority